Okay, so I guess we'll just review the last two things we said yesterday. The Gemara wanted to know, how do you know that this law of our Mishnah, that a court making a mistake, it depends on the court's erroneous ruling and depends on the people's acting upon the ruling. So Rava was the first opinion. He says, Milikola am bishgogo. Sounds like through the nation there was some kind of inadvertence. So it sounds like something happened. Sorry, Abaya was the first one. So through the eyes of the congregation, it was done lishgaga. It was done. More of a passive language. Sounds like it was done. Somebody caused someone else to do something. What's that? That is that the court caused the nation to sin. Rava Amar Milakol Ha'am Bishgaga. The whole nation did something erroneously. It says the Gemara, they're not really arguing. They're just complementing each other. You need both of them. Vitzricha, they're necessary. If you only have the first verse that says that through the eyes of the congregation, things were done inadvertently. You'd have thought anything that's done, even a minority of people that acted upon the erroneous ruling, would be liable. Therefore, it says for the whole nation. It has to be the whole or the majority of the nation to act erroneously. And if you only have the second verse, that the whole nation just inadvertently, you would have thought, you would have thought maybe the whole nation means literally that the court has to act upon their own erroneous ruling also, and only once you have the majority of the Jewish people and the court acting upon an erroneous ruling, then and only then we'd be liable or exempt from our offering. Says the Gemara, that it sounds like it was done passively. It's something someone caused someone else to do something, which means that the court caused the people to do something. Even if they themselves didn't do it, but they caused someone else to do it, that's still going to be enough. Says the Gemara, okay, that's very nice. Both of these verses are here, except the Haki Ksivi, honey cried, the Avodos Kolchavim with Ksivi. These two verses are both written by idol worship. How do you know in any other area of the Torah where the court rules erroneously and the people follow them that that's also going to be liable for an offering? Yalfina me'ene me'ene. You learn that from the words from the eyes. You learn that from the section of idol worship to everywhere else that even if they erroneously rule in other areas, and then the most people act upon it, so we bring a sacrifice. I think later we're going to limit this to not any sin, only something that one will get kares for. Yeah, we'll see coming up later. Okay. So now we had all those opinions yesterday. Who brings the offering? So Rabbi Meir said only the court brings an offering if they have an erroneous ruling that most people follow. Others' opinions said that every tribe brings an offering. Some said both bring an offering. So we're going to go through each one. So Rabbi Yehuda said that when 7 tribes sin, 7 tribes bring an offering, and the other tribes are dragged along, so to speak, that they also are liable to bring an offering. But that was only true if the court, the Sanhedrin, ruled erroneously. If that tribe's Bezdin, their own court, ruled erroneously, and that tribe followed them, only that tribe has to bring an offering. The other ones do not have to bring an offering. Now, what happens if one tribe rules erroneously on something that the great court issued? So we have the great court issuing, 7 tribes follow. We have the tribe's personal court issuing something, that tribe follows it. What happens if one tribe follows an erroneous ruling of the great court? That is a unspoken about case. So usually when you have those cases, that's what the Gemara picks up on. So that's exactly what happens over here. Ibailahu, we have a question, an inquiry. You have one tribe according to Rabbi Yehuda who they acted erroneously on an erroneous ruling of the court. Do the rest, they for sure have to bring an offering. They have to bring an offering even if their own court ruled erroneously. But do the other tribes get, so to speak, dragged along and they also have to bring an offering or no? Well, so Mi Amrina, and do we say that when the Mishnah mentions 7 tribes, Shiva Shvatim Hu Demaisu, but Shar Shvatim Behadayu, only when you have 7 tribes, Hu Demaisu Shar Shvatim Behadayu, then the rest of the tribes have to bring offerings also. Why? Because 7 tribes are the majority. Mishum Di Karuba. That's on the one side. Aval Chad Shevet, one tribe, which is not the majority of the Jewish people, it's not the majority of the tribes. Delay Karuba lo. So maybe the other tribes don't bring. Maybe it's unique when the majority of the Jewish people are, so to speak, like representative of everybody, and everyone has to bring. Odil Maloshna, or maybe it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the rule is when one tribe brings, everybody brings. Regardless if you're one tribe, 7 tribes. So we're going to try numerous attempts to answer this question. Tashma, let's bring the following brisa. Ma hein mevin. So a cryptic case. There's some case that, what do they bring? Sounds like the court brings. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see who brings. What do they, the proverbial they, mevin par echad, 1 bull. Rabbi Shimon omer shnei parim, 2 bulls. So some case where the proverbial they bring 1 bull, and Rabbi Shimon says that what happened, they bring 2 bulls. Okay, so says the Gemara, that's very cryptic. So b'mai eskina, what are we talking about? So let's go through it one by one. If you're going to tell me 7 tribes sinned, and that's why we're bringing all these offerings, Rabbi Shimon in the Mishnah holds that whenever the number of tribes sin, then you have to add 1 and bring that many offerings, because the court brings an offering and the people bring an offering. Rabbi Shimon here says that 2 bulls are brought. What's the case? If 7 tribes sinned, so then Rabbi Shimon Tamya Bai, if 7 tribes were to act on an erroneous ruling of the court, there should be 8 offerings brought, 7 for the tribes and 1 for the court. Yet here Rabbi Shimon said you bring 2 bulls. What's the case where he would agree that you bring only 2 bulls? Ella v'chata shevet echad. Rather, obviously 1 tribe erred. If 1 tribe erred, they acted off an erroneous ruling. Now you understand Rabbi Shimon says you bring 2, 1 for the tribe and 1 for the court. So once we figure out Rabbi Shimon, we can work backwards and figure out the first opinion. So b'mai, okay, now we have 1 tribe sinning. According to who? Their own court or the great court? So Iba Hora is based Dino. If it's according to their own court, Rabbi Shimon less like. Rabbi Shimon never agreed that you bring any offering if your own court ruled erroneously and the tribe follows their own court's ruling. Rabbi Shimon just said when the tribes follow the great court's ruling, then you have to bring offerings. So according to Rabbi Shimon, it must be a case. The great court ruled erroneously. And Rabbi Shimon says, when 1 tribe followed the erroneous ruling of the court, then you have to bring 2 bulls. Fine, that's Rabbi Shimon. Who is the first opinion? Some opinion, anonymous, that says you only bring 1 bull. The Tanakama money. Who is the Tanakama? Right, this is like a classic Gemara, like filling in all the gray areas. Yeah. So first, what's the case, and then what's the gray, and then who's the anonymous one? So money. Who is the anonymous ruling? One by one. E name a Rabbi Meir. If you want to tell me it's Rabbi Meir, he has 1 requirement. Haruba Bai. He needs a majority of the Jews to act off the erroneous ruling of the Bezdin. Here you only have 1 tribe, so can't be Rabbi Meir. Elalav Rabbi Yehuda. It must be Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, who agrees that tribes bring offerings, and therefore, if we say this is Rabbi Yehuda, that would answer our question. That Rabbi Yehuda would agree that if 1 tribe acted based off an erroneous ruling of the great court, then that tribe has to bring an offering. Well, so that was attempt number 1. Amri, though, but now we're going to reject it. Maybe the case is not that way. Amri hachamay skinim kigon shechatu shisha shvatim vehein Reuben shall call Rabbi Shimon Elazar. Maybe the case where 6 tribes, which happen to, which are not the majority in terms of tribes, but they're the majority in terms of numbers. Maybe that's the case. 6 tribes which make up the majority of the people, they have to bring offerings. And who's that opinion like? Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, the very end of our Mishnah. The Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer Mishmo, that Chatu Shisha ve'hin Ruben Shalakal, 6 tribes sin, and they compromise the majority of the Jewish people, or the other way, Shiva, 7 tribes, which I think that electoral college, yeah, the 7 tribes are the majority. Afal Pisha Ein and Ruben Shalakal, even though they're not the majority number-wise of the population, but only the majority in terms of tribes. So he says, maybe in part, he says that they have to bring a 1 bull. So maybe that's the case that we're talking about. And therefore, you don't have a proof that that opinion is Rabbi Yehuda, because maybe it's Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, to which our question that according to Rabbi Yehuda, what does one tribe who acts off an erroneous ruling of the great court, do they have to bring an offering? Yes or no? So that we still remain unanswered. Sorry, does one tribe that errs off the erroneous ruling of Bezdin, do the other tribes have to bring an offering? Yes or no? We thought no, only one offering is brought. But now we're saying that that anonymous first opinion in this brisa is referring to Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, and therefore we don't have a proof for Rabbi Yehuda. But we have a second attempt. Tashma, here we have a brisa with his name. That might be easier. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Shevet Sha'asa B'Horaz Beis Dina, a tribe that acted on the erroneous ruling of a great court. Sorry, not a great court, of its court, Beis Dino, its court. Oso HaShevet Chayiv, B'Shar Kol Shvatim Pturim. That tribe is obligated. The rest of the tribes are exempt. So now we have a tribe that's going according to its own court, not the great court, Shevet Yissakar's court, or whatever, Shevet Zvulun's court. So then we say that the rest of the tribes are exempt. Ubehoraz Bezdin Agadol, but if they were act erroneously based off of the ruling of the great court, then Afilu Shar Shvatim Chayavim Shmamina. Oh, we have a conclusion that if they would act erroneously based off the ruling of the great court, then the other tribes are liable to bring offerings for them, which would mean that according to Yehuda, anytime a tribe errs according to the great court's erroneous ruling, every tribe is going to have to bring a sacrifice. You're always going to have 12 sacrifices. The only time that the tribe itself brings its own sacrifice is if its own court ruled erroneously and that tribe followed. But if the great court ruled erroneously and a tribe followed, then all 12 tribes have to bring a sacrifice. Yeah. Okay. Amar Rav Ashi, let's bring a little bit of a support in the words from our Mishnah to this idea. Masnisin, our Mishnah, Nami, also Deka Dekatani. It's Medulik. It has that kind of implication. Where do you see that? It says in our Mishnah, Dekatani also Hashevet, Al Pihem, the tribe acts according to their words. Also Hashevet Chayiv, V'Sharko Shvatim Turin. So that tribe is liable. So we're talking about when a tribe acted off the erroneous ruling of their own court. It says that tribe is chayiv, and then it adds v'shar kol hashvatim turin. So the Gemara is going to ask now, that seems to be repetitive. That tribe is liable. We know already that the rest of the tribes are exempt. You don't need to speak that out. That tribe is liable. Correct. That tribe is liable, and no other tribe is liable. Why did you speak that out? Lama lila misna. Why did you teach v'shar shvatim turin? The rest of the tribes are exempt. Hatana, also Shevet Chayiv. You already told me that tribe is liable, and that's it. So the Kevan Ditana also Shevet Chayiv. Once you said that tribe is liable, we know that the rest of the tribes are exempt. Ella, it must be you were hinting to something, you were alluding to something. What were you referring to? Ella Hakamash Malon, you were teaching us the Bahara as Beis Dino. That's only a specific rule when it comes to its own court that ruled erroneously. That's where we say Yishar Shvatim Turim Aval Behora as Bezdin Agadol. But if the same scenario would take place, but they would act because of an erroneous ruling of the great court, then you wouldn't say Shar Shvatim Turim. The rest of the tribes are exempt. Rather, you would say Afilu Shar Shvatim Chayavin Shmamino. You would say that the rest of the tribes are liable Shmamino. So Rabbi Yehuda, who says that all the tribes have to bring a offering, we've proved that is true whether it's 7 tribes, the majority acted erroneously off the great court's ruling, or even 1 tribe acts erroneously, the rest of the tribes do have to bring an offering, unless its own court ruled erroneously and that tribe followed, then only that tribe has to bring a offering. That is Rabbi Yehuda. Next, Ibailahu, another inquiry, Shevet Echad, 1 tribe, Sha'asu b'haraz bezdin agadol, that acted based off the erroneous ruling of the great court, l'Rebbi Shimon mi maisi olo. Rabbi Shimon was of the opinion that when you have 7 tribes that acted upon the erroneous ruling of the great court, you bring 8 sacrifices. Each tribe brings a sacrifice. The great court brings a sacrifice. So now, according to Rabbi Shimon, same question we had for Rabbi Yehuda, but after Rabbi Shimon, when the Mishnah said 7, it means 7 because that's the majority, or it's even referring to 1. So, mi my CLO, according to Rabbi Shimon, would you bring a sacrifice or not? Yeah. 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, according to Rabbi Shimon, maybe when only 1 tribe acts erroneously, that's the same as an individual acting erroneously based off the ruling of the great court, and that our Mishnah says you are exempt. If you mean only 7 tribes, that's considered like a congregation already who's liable, or even each tribe is called a congregation and they're also liable. So let's see. Tashma, let's bring a brisa. Mahain maybe. Okay, same cryptic brisa that we tried to prove originally in Rabbi Yehuda, we're going to bring it again to see if it could fit with Rabbi Shimon. Mahain maybe, what do they bring, the proverbial they? Yeah, par echad, 1 bull. Rabbi Shimon says 2 bulls. Okay, what's the case? Shnei parin, if we're talking about 7 tribes sinning, so then Shnei parim, Shemona parim by. If it's referring to 7 tribes doing something, acting erroneously, acting based off an erroneous ruling, so if it's 7 tribes, why are you bringing 2 bulls? You should bring 8 bulls. So Rabbi Shimon agrees that there's some case where you bring 2 bulls. What's the case where you bring 2 bulls? The Mishnah only told us a case of 8 bulls, not 2 bulls. Ella dechata shevet echad. It must be that 1 tribe acted erroneously based off the ruling of the great court. Now, ubemai. If you can tell me it's acted based off its own court, not the great court, but its tribe's court. So Rabbi Shimon less like, he never has that rule that if your own tribe issued a ruling, the court of your own tribe issued a ruling erroneously, the tribe has to bring anything. We never heard Rabbi Shimon agree to that. That was Rabbi Yehuda. That wasn't Rabbi Shimon. So it must be it must be the great court rule. 1 tribe acted erroneously, and now you have to bring 2 bulls, 1 for the tribe and 1 the court has to bring. Betizbra, and this is very logical. Why? Betizbra, that's the question. Is this logical? Hanakama money. 1 second. That's very good for Rabbi Shimon, who brings 2 bulls. Who's the they in the beginning? Who's the opinion that says that they bring 1 bull? Let's go through it. If it's Rabbi Meir, who always says you bring 1, he needs the majority of the Jewish people to act based off the erroneous ruling, not 1 tribe. So Rabbi Meir, Harubabai, he needs the majority, not that. Rabbi Yehuda, if it's Rabbi Yehuda, he requires all the tribes to bring offerings, not just 1 bull, 12 bulls. So it's not Rabbi Meir, it's not Rabbi Yehuda. So who is it? Hamani, Rabbi Shimon Elazar. It's going like the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Elazar, which we said earlier also. Ukiditanya, like that brisa we had earlier, that Rabbi Shimon Elazar says when you have 6 tribes that are the majority numbers wise, or 7 tribes that are the majority tribe wise, so then you're going to bring 1 offering. But once you establish the case as referring to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Elazar, that's referring to either 6 tribes or 7 tribes, then you can't prove anymore that we're talking about 1 tribe. So, okay, so let's try again. Tashma, v'chachamim omrim, v'olam eino chayiv ela alaraz bezdin agadol. The chachamim say that you're only liable when you act upon the ruling of the great court. Okay, man chachamim, who are the chachamim? Ilim Rabbi Meir. If it's Rabbi Meir, he needs the majority. 1 tribe acting based off the great court is not enough. Elalav Rabbi Shimon he shmamino. it must be Rabbi Shimon, who the Chachamim's opinion is reflecting the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who says that one tribe would be liable if they act erroneously based off the ruling of the great court. So both Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, we've concluded, if one tribe acts based off of an erroneous ruling of the great court, they're liable to bring sacrifices. Rabbi Yehuda says everyone's liable, and Rabbi Shimon will say that that tribe is liable, and probably the court also. Yeah. 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 Okay. Now, what is this idea based off of? That one tribe has to also bring an offering. Rabbi Meir is the most logical. Majority of Jewish people they act based off an erroneous ruling, they're liable. Where is the source of Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon? So Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon, they say, Shevet Echad, one tribe is called a congregation, the Ikri Kahal, Minalu. Their proof is that one tribe is called a Kahal, it's called a congregation. Now, what is the source that one tribe is called a congregation? You would have thought a congregation is the whole Jewish people. So, Dichsiv, you're saying, what do you mean? Right, Ada. By the Meraglim, that's what we know it out. Ada, is it the word Kahal? I think it's the word Ada. Yeah, good. How's it referred to over there? What's the word that's used? 10. Yeah, 10. Interesting. Right, there's different words that represent groups of people. Congregation. Yeah, I don't know how the English translation. Ada versus Kahal versus. Okay. Yeah, good. Look at those words. Yeah, good. So the word Kahal, so we have by Yehoshaphat, Vayamad Yehoshaphat Bekal Yehuda v'Yerushalayim HaChadash. So Yehoshaphat is getting up there with Bekahal Yehuda v'Yerushalayim. Yeah. Beveis Hashem, he's in the house of God, Lifnei HaChatzer HaChadash, before the new courtyard. So it sounds like you have at least two groups of people there, Yehuda and Yerushalayim. They're called Kahal. And you're standing in front of the new courtyard. Just so parenthetically, the Gemara asks, why is part of the temple referred to as the new courtyard? Mai Chadasha. Is it just parenthetical? Rabbi Yochanan shechichu dvarim. They had a novelty. The Amru Atvul Yom. So someone who has impurity, let's say a seminal emission. So, and he went to the mikvah and is waiting for sunset. So he still has some level of impurity. And he was certain kinds of seminal emissions. I think seminal emission were allowed to, sounds like, go into even the Machane Leviah, the camp of the Levites. But that day they said, Tvul Yom Al Yikan is Machane Leviah. He cannot enter the Machane Leviah. So that's why it was called the new courtyard, because they added this new rule that day. Fine. However, what do you see? You see that the word kahal is used, and it's referring to, sounds like it's referring to one tribe. Which tribe is there? Yehuda. The tribe of Yehuda is there. So one tribe, Yehuda, and it's referred to as kahal. There you see that one tribe is referred to as kahal. Says the Gemara, basically, well, you're in Yerushalayim. Who's in Yerushalayim? Which tribe? Binyamin. So maybe Binyamin was also there, and that's why it's called kahal, which would mean that your minimal requirement to refer to a group of people as a kahal is going to be two tribes and not one. Okay, let's see them side. Muscular Achabar Yaakov Mimai Dilma Shani Yerushalayim David Binyamin. You can't bring Yerushalayim as a proof. Binyamin is there. That's his portion. So knock that. Ella Amr of Achabar Yaakov Dichsiv, jumping to the end of Horayot, the blessings Yaakov's giving to, I think, Yosef. The Yomer Eli. You're going to be great and fruitful and numerous. You're going to receive lekal amin. What does it mean? You're going to receive a kahal. You're going to receive a nation. What nation is Yosef receiving? Man Isyale Hayishaita. Who was born at that time? Binyamin. Binyamin. So it sounds like Binyamin was born at that time, and Yaakov is telling him he's going to be a great nation. He's going to be a kahal. Well, we see Binyamin is referred to, one tribe is referred to kahal. Shmamina. Shmamina Hachi Kamarachman. This is what the Torah means to say. Misyalid L'chahashta kahal achrina. Sorry, that's a rejection. Who was born at that time? Binyamin, Shmamina. Then what's the next line? Haki Kamar. At this. Okay. Before Shabbat, what's the line before that? We're rejecting it? We're supporting it.
Born to you, and you already.
Because you're saying. Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah. It just a support. Good. Yeah, this is what the Torah is saying, that you're going to have a child now. You're going to have now another nation, and other nation is Binyamin. So you see, Binyamin is referred to as a nation. Fine. Okay. Amar Le Rav Shabal Rav Kahana says Rav Shabal Rav Kahana Dilma Hakikam. Here's a rejection. Maybe this is what he means to say. Dilma Hakikam. Maybe this all the Torah is saying. L'chi misyalecha Binyamin hu dehave yud beishvatim demiskaris kahal. Maybe you can read the Torah like this: when you have another son, now you're going to have 12 tribes, and that's why it's called a nation, a kahal. Not that one tribe, Binyamin, is called a kahal, but now you're going to have 12, and that's called a kahal. Says the Gemara, didn't you just tell me a second ago that Yehoshaphat was standing there, and he had 2 tribes with him? He had Yehuda and Binyamin, and that was called a kahal? And now you want to tell me that 12 is called a kahal? Doesn't make sense. Amar le, elashnemas arshvatim ikri kol, but achadas lo ikri kol, but 11 is not called a kahal. And the great part is, we just called 2 tribes a kahal. So it wouldn't make sense that the Torah was specific about calling 12 tribes a kahal, when we were already referred to them, or not already in time, but other places refers to 2 tribes as kahal. So why would you read it that way, that it's referring to 12 tribes and calling them a kahal? Gary, we are 3 lines from the bottom on 5b, at the end of the line, a new section right now. Okay. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon Omer, ma Talmud lo. Okay, so now we have a verse, and it's going to be related in a while. So Rabbi Shimon Omer, what does it mean? This is talking about, Matamud Lomar Upar Sheni Ben Bakar Tikach Lechatos. This is referring to the inauguration of the Levites, and they had to bring a second bull as a sin offering. So why is it referred to as a second bull? So if you want to teach them that there was 2, that's why it's called second. Im Lilamed Shem Shnayim, you want to teach me that it's referring to 2. It already says, it already told us previously that there are 2 offerings here that the Levites are bringing for their inauguration. One's a chatas, one's an olah. So why is it referring to, and now he brought the second bull as a chatas? We know that there's 2. Ella, you would have thought, chatas Leviim, you'd have thought that the Levites are going to be able to eat some of this offering. Talmud Lomar, Upar Sheni. What does it mean second? It's second to the Ola, meaning it's comparing this one to the Ola. Not Ola and Ola, it fully goes up. It doesn't get eaten. Lo necheles, next page. Avchatas lo necheles. Even a sin offering is not going to be eaten. Okay, fine. So why is this here? We'll see. We'll see soon. It seems like a little random. So Kiyotzebo, we have a similar ruling. Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says when they came back from Babel, Ezra brought the Jews back from Babel. What happened? So it says, Habayim Mahashvi ben Hagol, the ones that came from captivity and exile, Hikrivu Olas Lokei Yisrael. They brought Ola offerings to the God of Israel. Harim Shnei Masar, a whole lot of offerings. They brought 12 bulls and a bunch of rams and sheep. So says the Gemara, though, at the end, the last 3 words of the verse is all of these offerings, a lot of offerings, 90 of this and 77 of that, and a whole bird offerings, it all refers to them at the end, Hakol Ola Hashem. They're all an Ola La Hashem. They're all a bringing up to God. So Hakol Ola Sagadaytach. What do you mean? They're all an Ola offering? Achatas offering is not an Ola offering. Different kind of sacrifices. One's considered a chatas, one's considered an Ola. So why is it referred to even the sin offerings as an Ola? Ella, rather, to teach you Hakol Ki Ola. It means to say it's like an Ola. Ma Ola lo necheles. Just like an Ola is not eaten, so to these offerings, they should be eaten, but there's a special rule. Av chatas lo necheles. So to our two offerings by the Levite inauguration, the chatas is also not eaten. As we see when the Jews came back from the exile, it also was not eaten. What's being brought up is all to God.
I know, it's all to God.
That's right. So, okay. Now, still, why are we bringing all this? Still have to see. Yeah. Keep the seatbelt fastened. So, hands inside the vehicle. Yeah, okay. The Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer. I never listened to that. So, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Alavodas Gilchavim, they brought all these offerings. Why? For idol worship. They came back and they committed idol worship, and now they have to bring all these offerings to as atonement. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Alavodos Gilchavim Heviyim. They bring all these offerings for idol worship. The Omer of Yehuda Omer Shmuel, and Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. Alavodos Gilchavim she'asu b'mei tzidkiyahu. They're not bringing for the idol worship in their times. They're bringing it for what happened much earlier in the times of Tzidkiyahu. Okay. So now, this is why this is all here. Bishlam al Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, who requires all the tribes to bring offerings. Bishlam Rabbi Yehuda mishkachas lo lahani shnei masar chatos. I understand why you're bringing 12 sin offerings. What happened? 12 tribes 12 tribes acted off of an erroneous ruling of the court. Therefore, demaisu shnei masar seirim. Therefore, you're going to bring 12 goats. That I understand. The end of the verse says you bring 12 sin offerings. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's very good. It must have been a case where the court ruled erroneously. 12 tribes, or really even one tribe, followed. All 12 tribes now have to bring 12 sin offerings. So that's one. Either 12 tribes sinned, or inami dechatu shiva shvatim. Okay, now it doesn't really mean 7 here. It can mean really anything. Some take this out. Because we learned from Yehuda, we already concluded that you don't need 7, even one tribe. Inami dechatu shiva shvatim, or some take it out. Rabbi Nathan takes it down and says, it just says mixas. Some of the tribes sinned, and therefore v'sha'ara enach b'greira, and the other tribes are dragged along for the ride. So they all have to bring an offering. According to Rabbi Yehuda, I understand these verses. Ulu Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, nami mishkachas law. According to Rabbi Shimon, I also understand if 11 tribes sinned based off an erroneous ruling of the court regarding idol worship. So what happens? 11 tribes sin, you bring 12 sin offerings. That makes sense. The Maisi Achadasar Seirim. 11 tribes bring a sin offering, and Bezdin brings the other one. So according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, which we just spent time proving that they refer to, each Shevet is called a Kohol, I understand. Ela Reb Meir. Reb Meir said, Amar Bezdin Meivin below Tzibur. Reb Meir says the court brings the offering if everyone acts off their erroneous ruling, not the congregation below Tzibur. So Shnei Masar Heichi Meshakas, like why is everyone bringing every tribe? Why are there 12 sin offerings here? So it says you have to say for Reb Meir, Kigon Dechatu, V'Hadar Chatu, V'Hadar Chatu, 12 different times that they acted upon the erroneous ruling of the court. Now the court's obligated to bring 12 offerings. Okay. Okay. Now let's get that finished. What we need in terms of our section in Horayot. Now the Gemara is going to parenthetically get involved in: can you bring a sin offering for people that aren't alive anymore? They came back from Babylon, and they're bringing sin offerings for sins that were done in the times of Tzidkiyahu. Does it work that way? If a father sins and then he dies, does a son bring a sin offering for the father? This is really Zvachim. So I guess it's like an introduction to Zvachim. But so let's see. So the ha maisi lahu hanu dechatu, the ha maisi lahu hanu dechatu. So so the ha maisi lahu hanu, the ones who sinned, I think have to bring, not the ones who aren't alive anymore. You can't bring for the ones that aren't alive. So says Rav Papa, no, I'll tell you the rule. Amar Rav Papa, ki gmiri. When did we learn? Which, by the way, is halacha Moshe Misinai. Hashem told Moshe this, that a chatas shemesu ba'aleha, a chatas offering, that the owner of the chatas dies. So then the offering, you have to kill the animal. You can't bring it. When is that rule true? By an individual. Hani mili b'yachid. If an individual dies and he has not yet brought up his sin offering, then the animal has to die. That's a halacha Moshe Misinai. Aval lo b'tzibur. If a congregation is liable to bring an offering, so they still have to bring it. Why? Lefi she'ein misa b'tzibur. There's no death when it comes to congregation. The congregation, its entity is still around. You can lose members, but it itself is still here. Okay, so yeah. So minole le Rav Papa. How does Rav Papa know this? Maybe it's not true. Anytime anybody dies, you don't bring the sin offering. So let's see. Maybe you'll tell me. It says in Tehillim, you banecha, in place of the fathers will be the children. Maybe that's how I know. So if that verse is going to be your source, then even an individual can take the place of his father and bring his sin offering. And Rav Papa said that doesn't work. It only applies by a congregation. So Ella, Diuka de Rav Papa. Diuka de Rav Papa, his derivation, is learned at, what is it? Inference. Okay, sorry, yeah, it's a good word. His inference, thank you. His inference, the Rav Papa, is learned out from Meseir de Rosh Chodesh, the goat that's brought every Rosh Chodesh, the Amar Achmana, Maisi mi Trumas Halishcha, the Hamaisi Lahu mi Yisrael. You're bringing a communal offering for different Jews, like we learned in the first Mishnah in Shavuos, different Jews who either had a lapse, they walked into the temple when they were impure, or whatever the different opinions are there in Shavuos, but you're bringing an offering as a chatos, as an atonement for the Jewish people. Now, the Hanach de Paishi, Heichi Maisu, how could the offering be brought on a communal level when some of the people aren't alive anymore? Some of the people that sinned, that need atonement, which is atoned for by the Rosh Chodesh offering, they're not alive anymore. And yet the Rosh Chodesh offering is brought every month to atone for them. What do you see from there? That a sin offering, which was brought on Rosh Chodesh to atone for people, can even atone if some people aren't here anymore. Some of those sinners in that last month died, and yet it still atones for them. Shmamina, that would be the proof that by a congregation you can atone even if some of the members have died. Says the Gemara, that's not a good proof. Why? Midami Rosh Chodesh. Is it similar? Is our case similar to the offering brought on Rosh Chodesh? Dilma lo maisi mitzib. Dilma lo maisu betzibur. It's not conclusive because who said every month people die? It could be that they don't die. So the fact that it atones for people, you can't say conclusively it's because someone died that month. You don't know. You could assume it very likely, but you can't prove it conclusively. So, but here from Tikio's time until we returned from Babylon, for sure people died. So I need a proof that's for sure people died, and still the communal sin offering can atone for people who died from the congregation. Ela time from here. It says by Yom Kippur coming up, so not Yom Kippur. I jumped the gun. It's talking about the Egla Rufa, the decapitated calf. So you bring when you found a corpse that's that you don't know, you can identify who how to get there. So therefore they come and you have an atonement with the decapitated calf. But then it adds in Asher Padisa Hashem to that nation for the people that were redeemed by God. Who's that referring to? Ru'uya Kaparazu, this current atonement is fitting to atone. It's going to atone for even the people that left Egypt. Now, yeah, is it a general atonement for them, or it's an atonement for the people that left Egypt that had a case of an egla rufa? You're atoning for them, and they never got their atonement. Sounds like that a little bit. So, how can you be atoning for people that left Egypt? They've been long gone. So, says the Gemara, you see from here, you can have an atonement even for people that have been long gone. So, Midechsiv Asher Padis, the nation that you redeemed. Says the Gemara, that's very different. Midami. Hasam Hulu Aisinam. So there, when you're by the decapitated calf, some people here today need an atonement, right? That neighboring city that's going to be responsible, they need an atonement. So Migu de Mechapra Chayim Mechapra Nami Ames. Says the Gemara, maybe the rule is as long as you can atone for living, then you can latch it on to the dead also. But our case, no one's alive anymore from Tzidkiyahu's time to the people that returned from Babel. So how can we atone now fully for people that have been dead for a long time? And we're not talking about the current Averas, we're talking about their Averas. So that's still not a conclusive proof. Says the Gemara, you're right. That it says there by Ezra, so a lot of so it says, you're right, and there were actually people that were there from the first temple, who are here at the inauguration of the second temple. So they really are here. So you have some of the living people from Tzidkiyahu's time that survived and are still around during the return from Babylon's time. Says the Gemara, okay, but who says they're the majority? Maybe it's a few individuals. We're talking about something which the entire congregation acted erroneously off the erroneous ruling of the court. Here, maybe it's only 3 people are alive from the first temple, not a significant number. Says the Gemara, no. The low rabbim havu. So we say no. I'll prove it to you. Haksiv truas hasimcha lekol bechi ha'am v'hakol nishma ad l'merocho. So, right, famously, you had people at the time of the second temple that were laughing and that were crying. Who was laughing? Who was joyous? The ones that never saw the first temple. They merited the second temple. Who was crying? The ones who were alive at the time of the first temple. This paled in comparison to the first temple, and therefore they were crying. And their weeping was heard into the distance. It sounds like it overrided the joyous celebration. The weeping was much louder. So therefore, you see that the ones who weep, they comprised of a majority of people because they really outdid the festivities. Let's stop here. This game's getting a little easier. What did you say?
If you're wrong on that, you go
Yeah.